Hello, John Bear. I'll be right with you. Hopefully you can hear everything all right. Hello, Antoine? Or is it Anto? I'm almost ready to reveal the desk. Just need one more moment. Hopefully the levels of all the audio sound all right. Let me know if it's not. I'm a little far away from the mic. Let me talk closer. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Hello, Solarian King. What's everyone up to this fine Friday evening? Just making sure I got all my links up, you know, that good old stuff. Okay, I think that's good. Fun story, I wanted to get the stream going a bit earlier, but my mouse stopped working, so I'm using the good old trackpad. At least I've got that as a backup. Playing Pokemon, nice. Which one you playing? The Scarlet and Violet? One of those new ones. Alright, just getting situated here. We got our glues. I'll probably use plastic cement for almost everything. I usually only break out the super glue if it's like a really finicky bit and it needs to dry fast. Soul Father, that sounds familiar. And I've already cleaned up the nubs off all the pieces for the Vanguard clones. And the bits I have here are just gonna be starting off with the standard bear and leader, because those ones are always the most exciting to build, so I figure I should do them first. I do need to grab a toothpick from behind me. 1 second. What's the Soul Father kit bash, Solarian King? Care to share any details? Alright, we got our toothpicks so we don't have to get too much glue on our fingers, hopefully. And this, I'm building for this, like my Conquest miniature work this year. I'm building 4 units, and by this year I mean like the couple videos I've got planned involving Conquest in this like quarter 2, I guess. So I'll explain more about those videos later. Building 4 different, I've got 4 different unit box sets. And probably the Vanguard clone box set is the one with the least amount of extra bits, and it'll be the most straightforward to build, I'm hoping. Because, oh boy, I've clipped out many bits over the last couple days. Okay, so this for the standard bear, obviously. This is the champion sword, because it's got a fancy tassel on the bottom. And the champion also gets a flag for his back. Let's make the stream just a little bit brighter. Should be better. And these legs I set aside as for being with the standard bearer. Shield on the champion, and the standard bearer just gets a regular arm. Alright, we got some heads here. The heads, these are like kind of cool, spooky elf clone models. It's kind of hard to describe what the spires are, but they're pretty unique. I think this one's slightly fancier, yeah. So that's a champion, and I just picked out that one for the standard bearer. And then these are extra armor pieces and the standard. Okay, well, we'll do the standard bearer first. So, you know, definitely need a base. Need a base with a champion too. Now, when it comes to torsos, I've glued these together already because it's just like two halves you glue together. And some of the torsos, we've got that they're like bending back a bit. Some of them are kind of straight. And then some of them are ab crunching, kind of. Where are the ab crunching ones? I guess this is an ab crunching one. And so I think the standard bearer would get the one that's just kind of straight with not much bend. So I think that should be good. All right. We're just gonna have all the torsos be mixed together now. They're all very similar. Oh, and here's a can crack, like always. If I was better at like learning fancy streaming software things, I would program some sort of just easy button to hit throughout the stream that I don't have to think about, and that can just be the burp counter. So I think the fanciest bit, or like the bits that are being glued together that require the most like attention with this model kit are the legs, because yeah, I grabbed a different focal length of lens to hopefully show this off better. We've got the two halves that go together there. And then it creates a nice sphere for the torso to sit in. But you can't, let's see, I should be able to just mock this up by holding it. Come on. But you can't just like, I mean, you can kind of like shove the torso in there, but not really, so gotta assemble it all, or like glue these three pieces together all at once, which is gonna be, I suppose, like the trickiest part, but I don't think it's gonna be that bad. I should be able to do it just with like one gloop of Tamiya cement. You decide to split the Barbatos Blitz Strike into two separate ones called Barbatos Blitz and Barbatos Strike. Oh, cool. That sounds like a pretty cool kit bash. And it's chilly, so I don't have my window open, so I'm hoping I don't get all wonky from gas or glue fumes, you know, good old glue fumes. I do have my air purifier running though. Ugh, burp one. So it begins. Alright, so just get that going in there. It's possibly too much glue. This is going to be a little janky here. We're just kind of carefully holding those two together, and then we need to get this one in here. Sandwich them nice and awkwardly. Gotta line up those pegs. Okay. Now, because it is plastic cement, the slower dry time means it does stay like movable for a little bit, so I'll make sure the camera's focused. So I can like reposition the torso to make sure it looks appropriate. And the beginning of getting glue on the fingers. Now I'm just pressing the thighs together. See, there's a bit of glue spilling over, but it's not too bad. I like how these guys have kind of poofy or like baggy thigh pants. With shin armor, I think makes a cool silhouette. Should probably try and move the camera higher if I can, that'll help. Okay, so that's holding for now. If I when I put it down to rest, I want to make sure it's like not gonna like slowly pull apart. It's just something I need to be aware of. Like if I lay it like that, there's a chance the pieces might slide apart a little bit. Maybe I'll do it just like that for now. Now next, so yeah, with this the attachment point. Okay, I'm gonna move the camera a little higher just to make focusing work out a bit better. And let me just check my focus point. Okay. I'm wearing my Coke Zero shorts while drinking Coke Zero. Or sorry, they're Conk Zero shorts. They're custom. Blue Parappa made them just like this shirt. The cat shirt. I'm just repping a bunch of Blue Parappa originals. Okay, let's just see how this is going to be sitting on the base. Sorry for the jarring camera movement there. You trying to get back into Gunpla after getting burnt out? Do you just build too many kits in a row? I mean, my solution for burnout is to just switch between, or not necessarily switch. Sometimes it's at the same time. Sometimes I do switch, I guess, but just, you know, doing the good old minis and Gunpla. I've got like two similar hobbies. But I mean, sometimes I'll get burnt out from both of those and play some video games or something. I do have a PDF on my desktop of the assembly guide. Just gonna glance at that quickly. See if there is a specific torso at once for the champion. Looks like the ab crunching one. Give him a cool action pose. I suppose it doesn't really matter too much. The torsos are all very similar, and it looks like they're designed in a way you can have pretty custom poses. So this connection point here, it's gonna be kind of annoying to like, it's not gonna hold that well. Right away with plastic cement. Yeah, and it doesn't look like there's a connection point for it to touch the ground. So this might be a case for super glue. Let's just get a little mock-up here. Yeah, it might touch the ground. I think we should probably put this on the base first. And that's so one thing with standard bears, if you've never done like war game stuff before, it's often a problem that a mini holding like a big flag will just fall over a lot more because it's just a big sail or like a weight to drag them down. So, and you know, this goes for any model, even if they're not holding a flag. You want to like get the balance of center of gravity right when you put it on the base. And so for this one specifically, since it has the pretty heavy flag, I want to glue it, the feet pretty close to the edge. So I guess it's helpful with the stream camera view that it is top down, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So like the body looks off center, burp too. Then when the flag's sitting about here, then it'll add a bunch more weight to this side. I am gonna use super glue for the feet here. Just because we need We don't got all night. Okay. Just got a few seconds to adjust that before it dries. I can get away with just a tiny bit of the feet hanging over the edge. See, there's maybe a bit too much glue on that foot, but it's okay. Oops. Whoops. Sometimes the super glue, or sometimes you eliminate the fast drying advantage of the super glue by just putting too much on. Okay, let's just let that dry for a minute. And let's start working on the champion. And we wanted the ab crunching torso. Where's one of them ab crunching torsos? Alright. And now there's a few different leg poses. We don't, because it's like gonna be photographed or like next to the standard bear on the battlefield a lot. I don't want it to have the same pair of legs. So that eliminates one option. We've got these legs here, which is like a 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot off the ground kind of leaping action pose, which could work. I think there's one more action pose, and there's like a lunge. I don't think I want to do the lunge. What's this one here? This looks like the lunge. Yeah, no, I don't want to do the lunge. And the last one here. Hey, what's up, Fiverr? Greetings, Lord General Sugar Candy Miniatures. How goes it? Thanks for stopping by. Well, thanks to everyone for stopping by. Oh yeah, hello Mark Sanza. I don't know if I said hello before. This is an interesting pose. We got both feet on the ground, but it looks kind of dynamic. Maybe I'll go with that one. No, I think the first pair was actually the coolest looking, or the most deserving of the champion. And you can see this one doesn't have the same peg system. Whoops, sorry, I bumped the mic there. You're just in time for burp 3. Oh, that was a weak one, I'm sorry. Oh, you were DMing a D&D session, nice. Have you DM'd before, or was this your first time? You can see this one here has like a kind of jagged teeth that fit together instead of pegs. Don't know why this one is different specifically, it's hard to say. Grab the old plastic cement then. If any of you had seen the video I put out in November about tabletop games, I talked a bit about D&D there, and I'm like, once I tried DMing, or once I started DMing, I almost entirely was like, well, this is preferable to being a player character. I enjoy the DMing role a lot more, or I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Okay, I think we need just a bit of plastic cement on this other one too. Gotta work fast though. Hello, Caleb. Thanks for coming. Not your first time? Yeah, I'd taken some breaks before too. I'm kind of on a DMing break. Whoops, right now, I guess. Oh, whoops, I glued these legs backwards. That's a problem. Okay, that looks better. Yeah, I finished a big campaign over the summer, and I've been on a break since, and I've played as a player character a couple times in just some one-offs that the group I was DMing for, you know, we're all friends, so no one's there's some other people in the friend group had a Curse of Strahd game going, but they're done now too. So all we've had lately is just some one-shots, which have been fun. We just did last night, actually had a wrapping up a like 2-shot session of the Alien RPG. Oh hey, Fatal Swordsman, what's up? It's going well. Just building some cool elf clones, kind of spooky elf clones. Okay, we can let that dry for now. This is probably dry enough. So I think what I'll do here is I will use plastic cement for the wrist joint here so it's decently strong. And then I'll have to make sure it lines up properly with a bit of a test fit. And I was saying earlier about in regards to cleaning up the nubs on these because I'm building 4 different Conquest unit boxes and I just got a lot to do. Burp 4. I guess I did this with my the original box set too, just because there's so many minis it came with. I'm very much taking the approach of like tabletop quality, like model cleanup, like definitely remove all the nubs, but I'm not like gonna put in maximum effort with the nub removal in order to so I'm concentrating for a sec here. Not maximum nub removal effort to make it like look flawlessly smooth or anything. I only really bother doing that with Gunpla or like maybe centerpiece models in a miniature army. When you got like a ton of infantry models to do it with, like it's not worth it to clean up a bunch of like small cosmetic stuff that like hardly anyone's gonna see. Okay, you can see how I'm like test fitting this kind of. Oh, it's a little tricky. Okay, well, we gotta let this dry at about this angle-ish. Let's just press that together for a minute. Maybe get the extra thin plastic cement, we'll see. I do think this standard bearer flag looks pretty cool. It's got like a face up here. Got a bunch of bones and charms and stuff. The aesthetics of the spires are just, they're just neat, you know? Okay, we'll have to let that dry for a minute. Perhaps while that... Oh, sorry about the focusing thing. Yeah, that's because I'm using a slightly longer focal length. Okay, I just need to adjust my position. That should fix it. Thanks for letting me know. Hopefully I didn't lose a bunch of viewers from that. Or from my jittery focus. Alright, I got that toothpick there. Probably use that to carefully apply a bit more cement to the wrist at the flag. And this sword will just kind of have that casually like so, I guess. Barbatos Strike gets 4 arms, nice. Yeah, back to the whole nubs discussion and tabletop quality. Like, I was thinking about that too when looking at the butts on here. There is like a seam line that you could like remove, but doing like that for the entire unit of infantry models just isn't worth it. Like, people aren't gonna see that really, unless they're like picking up the individual infantry and like inspecting them or whatever, which I don't have a problem if people do, but you know, when you gotta paint an entire army, you gotta make some compromises in order to actually get it done at a certain point, you know? And we don't want to glue the head on until the flag arm's on, because the way you glue the mini's head and where he's looking has a big impact on its pose, or on its, just on like the correct angle to look at it. Now the sorry if I'm making too many mouth noises into the mic. The leader guy, he gets some extra armor, as you can see here. Just move this a little bit this way. I believe it just kind of sits on top there. Let's look at that PDF guide. Okay, looks like the other back piece goes on first. So I got this armor piece that is sculpted to just go on top of his knobby spine bits. Yeah, okay, that's a pretty straightforward glue. Let's just go ahead and do that. Fiverr is your D&D campaign. Is there anything sugar or candy about it? Are you like adventuring through Candyland, or are you just like playing good old Sword Coast adventures? If you're keeping it secret, that's cool too, I understand. Okay, so the way this piece is looking at the top here, it's like not the best connection. So I think for this, I will use super glue just for its gap filling properties. We'll give that a little bit longer to dry though. What is that? Yeah, that's probably good enough. So let's attempt to attach the flag here. Burp 4 or burp 5? Knobby spine bits. Yeah, I enjoyed saying that word. Oh, that reminds me, I need to record this stream for B-roll purposes. Too bad I missed out on half an hour there. What's up, Ethan? Thanks for coming. Oh, it's the exact opposite. Bloodborne inspired campaign. That is the exact opposite. Yeah, I think I will use super glue for this section because I need it to dry a bit faster. Bloodborne campaign sounds pretty legit. I can think of a Bloodborne model you painted recently that your players might have to fight against. If I had to take any guesses. Okay. So there is a way to have this flag touch. Okay, something looks this is good why I used plastic cement here, because I do need to rotate this piece a bit. And the super glue begins to form the second skin. The joys of assembling wargaming infantry. Okay, yeah, this is getting... Maybe I do the flags first, because I know they're always the most annoying. I do have super glue accelerant I could always grab. We do need to correct the angle of the wrist here, though. That's what I'm gonna do, and we'll just come back to it. We'll just revisit this in a moment. Yeah, no, that seems more like an end of a story arc boss. You know, it's got like FromSoft boss energy. Yeah, now I'm attempting the precarious, like, hold both joints that are being glued at the same time and hope it dries properly. See how this goes. At least for model assembly streams, while I'm like waiting for glue to dry, it's good chances to catch up with the chat. Oh, we're sagging. Too soon. It was too soon. Hey, yeah. This is like a good example of the pros and cons of models that are very posable like this. If it was like a monopose model, it would go together faster, but there's less variation in the posing, so it's not as fun. Okay, we're just gonna worry about the wrist for now then. We were probably just a little premature there with attaching this. And maybe I should have used super glue. Maybe my problem is that I'm trying too hard to make sure it's attached to the old base there. Oh, where did its head go? Oh, it's in it's this head. Anyways, back to the main champion boy. Like I was saying about the center of gravity there, don't want to glue the foot in the middle of the base. This one to be about like that. Pretty cool pose on this one. Should look nice and dynamic. If I can get this foot to stick. Okay, that should be balanced well enough. Let's just continue with this super glue and get this arm on here at least. All right, and then I can do that extra shoulder armor probably. Yeah, get this in a cool about to stab you pose, or about to take a big old swing. Oh, hello Achilles. Thank you for your viewership. This might look cooler if it's raised a bit actually. It needs to have a bit more murderous intent. All right, now let's attach this fancy shoulder rig. Yeah, it like lines up with the top sort of, but with the front it just kind of sits on top, so I guess I just gotta make sure it's symmetrical enough. All right. Gently sit that there. I'm gonna leave that standard for last. I'm gonna give it plenty of time. I think I might squirt just a little bit of super glue in there. It's nice building models and just like, you know, only really concerning myself with getting it finished, not like, you know, with a gunpla project. Gotta like focus a lot more energy on making sure it looks pristine enough. Burp 5. Nice, glad that you found your Necron Warrior's Dark Matter. Also, hello. Alright, let's glue on shield arm. I think this unit's pretty cool. They're like buckler saber infantry. These Vanguard clones. The variant unit you could build them in the box is Vanguard clone infiltrators, and those ones have these like hand crossbow things that I think I'll show you some while this bit's drying. And you know, this is the fancy leader buckler, so it has like a face on it and a nice big spike. I think some of the other ones have spikes too, but what kind of pose do I want with this though? That's the question. That's probably good. Yeah, sugar can fiber. These are the Vanguard clones. The faction they're from are called the Spires. They're like cool elves, but evil. I could get into a whole lore rant about them. Right, I'll show you those hand crossbows first before I forget. Yeah, the sprinkles are trimmed off this one. So the Vanguard clone infiltrators, they dual wield these hand crossbow things. But I'm building the Vanguard clones according to list building purposes. Just because the way list building works in Conquest, it's like a bit more... It's like a bit more specific. I don't know what I'm trying to describe here exactly. It's more like your HQ choices so to speak. So like your character models have more of an impact on what your list building is like in Conquest, just because like I have a character model called the High Clone Executioner and stuff, and then I have another character called the Ferromancer, and like the Ferromancer, it's easier for him to bring drone units onto the battlefield, whereas the High Clone Executioner has like more buffing abilities for clones, and you know, there's a whole system of like restricted units and mainstay units and all that. And so all the 4 units I'm building right now, each unit box is like a dual kit. So I've made my decisions on what models to build out of those sets according to like what makes the most sense for my like army construction and list building purposes. But it's not as restrictive as I'm making it sound out to be. There is still one box I'm having trouble deciding of like, oh, do I want to build Imperial Rangers or the Longbowmen? Like both have good reasons to be taken, both rules wise and aesthetically wise. Yeah, crab-like's a good way to describe them. I guess I'll go into the lore now. They're like, yeah, the way to describe them is like, well, so this unit's clones, then there's other units that are like drones, which are, they look kind of similar, but like even more just cannon foddery. And they're like grown in underground chambers of they're like big tower fortresses this faction has. Those are the Spires. That's where they get their name. And so the drones are like, grown out of biomass, and well, I said the clones are as well, but you know, the drones aren't very intelligent. And some of the drones are like mutated to be like extra big, beefy, like monstrous infantry. And so they have these kind of like gross, kind of sticky, wet bodies covered in bandages. And then on top of that, they kind of have this chitinous bone, like organic, like bone armor. Kind of, I guess it's kind of similar stuff to like the Ossiarch Bone Reapers in Age of Sigmar. In terms of like, they kind of have like bones that they aren't the shape of bones. It's like bone material that's like magically crafted into specific shapes. So people can have fancy bone swords and stuff. So a lot of the Spire stuff has this kind of like chitinous bone armor. And their lore is pretty interesting. Like elves and, you know, like Tolkien elves, they came down from, they're like mysterious beings that came down from the heavens. But in the Conquest setting, they're actually like aliens that were like exiled or like fleeing their home planet and like ended up settling on the world Conquest is set in, kind of before humans rise as a power. But dwarves are there, dragons are there. The Conquest lore is like really in depth, and there's a lot of it, and it's really good. I don't think I could properly explain it all in one stream. But when the Spires originally came to the planet, they were just called the Exiles. Eventually they, like, you know, because of their own internal politics and divisions, they split up into 3 factions. One called the Quiet, and they're kind of like the secretive dark elves, but they're like so secretive that they probably like won't ever have an army for the game, as far as I know. Don't quote me on that. It's like they're in the lore, but like they're such a secretive faction, they wouldn't ever like field an army on the battlefield. And then there's another one, or the like wood elf equivalent, are called the Weaver Courts. I guess I should backtrack a bit. So this race of exiles, they had a craft called life binding, and then because of like some like various wars and difficulties they were facing, like the faction that became the Spires, they created biomancy, which is kind of like the like evil perverse, like corrupted version of life binding. And so one faction that like split away from the Spires because they didn't like the biomancy they were doing were the Weaver courts, and they're kind of like the Wood Elf equivalent, and they're about like mixing, like using life binding to integrate themselves with nature, which is pretty cool. Originally, that was a faction that was going to be a Burp 6 coming out in 2023 this year, but interestingly, the creative director in like a meeting, it was like one of their Google Hangout meetings, so like it was open to the public. He said that they weren't happy with how the art direction was going on there, and they were like delaying it a year instead. No, they weren't supposed to come out this year. I think they were supposed to come out in 2024, but they basically said like, no, this faction needs more time in the oven. We're not satisfied with it, which honestly, you gotta respect that. So instead they had a poll on their like Living World website, which was pretty exciting because we got a vote through like a community vote on which faction was going to be the next one. And the one that got voted for ended up being called the Sorcerer Kings. Okay, this head's a little janky. As in, I wonder if I can snap this piece off. Yeah. The head was in a bit of an awkward spot in order to like look up at an angle that makes sense. Maybe that this is where the ab crunch was a mistake. I'm just pulling up the PDF again. Or maybe I just wasn't quite gluing that extra armor on. And there's like a bit of wiggle room. Could also help ourselves out with a bit of hobby knife slicing. Sometimes you just gotta be bold and just do a bit of cutting to make it work. Knife to the side where it won't roll away and accidentally stab me in the leg. Could also like glue some sort of something in here to make sure, or like extend the neck to get it up a bit higher, but that will make it look weird potentially if it looks like it has a weird long neck, you know. What else is cool about the lore for the Spires is that there's two other factions in Conquest, the Nords, which is like the, you know, the Viking, the fantasy Viking faction, and the Wadrun, which are the Orc faction, but they're like extra cool orcs because they ride dinosaurs. Both of those races in the setting were created by the Spires. Okay, let's do a bit of cutting on the collar on this. Yeah, and you can also tell from the shade, like the hue of this gray plastic, that this is some of their like earlier sculpts. And having built a handful of Conquest models now, there have been pretty vast improvements in the way their models are like constructed and engineered. So I'm expecting, I mean, out of the 4 units I have, 2 of them are this like older plastic, and 2 of them are the newer stuff. So I'll have a lot of comparison points after this. Let's cut a bit of this top part off too. That can give us a bit more room to work with. I do like this forward, like leaning, running pose it's got going on. But it does make the direction, or like, it does make it a bit more difficult to get the mini to look in the direction I want to. Okay, I think I just gotta start gluing now. If this doesn't work out and I need a board, I'll probably just set this model aside and revisit it after I've built a few of the just grunt units, or grunt models. Sure it's the right head. Get him to turn his head a bit. Okay, that looks a little slightly better, but it's not quite there yet, or not quite to the way I want it. Cheat with a bit of neck extension, perhaps. That doesn't quite do it either. It does look a little awkward when the shoulder armor is like sitting higher than it originally was meant. Okay, that's not looking too bad now, except the neck is a little, looks a little like massive Adam's apple. How about that? That's a bit too much head tilt. Could try and turn it this way. Now that looks like he's running away. Could trim away some of the back of the head, that would help. That should be the last touch I need. Can leave the shoulder armor on there. You can see we've got kind of 3 bumps on the back of the head here, and I'm just gonna cut one of them away. And yes, it's a little dangerous cutting like this, so gotta always be careful with a knife, remember, people. I think I gotta brace myself on the mat here. Okay, got that first cut in. So much you can do with just a hobby knife. Like for all that nub cleanup or the basic nub cleanup I was talking about earlier, I just used the hobby knife basically for all of it. If there's like, you know, I'll make when all the minis are built, I'll do like a final pass over all them. If there's any like egregious nubs that need a bit more TLC of cleanup or stuff like that. But for the initial build, I got so many bits to go through. I just focus on getting it to an acceptable level. Okay, that definitely helps a bit. I think we could shave off even more though. And could possibly shave a bit more off this high collar. I know it seems like I'm really messing up this model here, but all this is gonna get like dry brushed and it's not gonna be noticeable when it's all sitting together there, whether it's an army or like a skirmish size first blood game. Oh yeah, that's much better. And I think I can get away with showing a bit of the ball, or the neck ball as well. Blue Parappa and I recently watched the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. I probably said that on the last stream or something, but I've had enough of a hankering for Lord of the Rings from that, or just like Middle-earth vibes, that we are rewatching the Hobbit movies. And I'm still like enjoying them for the Middle-earth vibes and all that, but yeah, there's such a difference in quality between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. It's a bit of an oof. Okay, I'm done modifying this piece now. I would still like it if the head was looking up a little bit more, but I don't want to get too crazy. Yeah, I can get behind that hot take 5. Or the first Hobbit movie is like definitely the best one out of all of them. Well, the first Hobbit movie was the first one they were making before the studios were like, actually, you have to make 3 movies out of this. Alright, time to glue the all-important back flag on. It wasn't the cat my mom had when I was like a child, like the first cat I remember. So it was like a cat my mom got before she had me. Was named Bomber, one of the dwarves from The Hobbit. It wasn't like a mega chunk like Bomber was in the Hobbit movies though. Okay, gotta make sure this flag is straight. Okay, well this looks to be the first one done. A little bit of a janky pose, but it's got like a kind of menacing run to it. Flag, are we crooked? It's hard to tell. Let's just hold that there for a minute. Blue Parappa has like made me aware of the whole like zone of Tumblr that's all just like Thorin x Bilbo content, and it is adding a new fun angle to the movie trilogy to enjoy. Be like, oh man, they are making the lovey-dovey eyes at each other a lot. Well, it's been an hour and we're just about finishing up 2 models, but it's the most complicated ones from the set. Yeah, you can already tell like this thing is just really wants to tip over, but that's just how standard bearers are. That's why I eventually got to magnetize the bases on these. Brent from Goobertown Hobbies had a video about magnets recently actually, and it he had some Conquest minis in there actually. Made me aware of this kind of long, like flat disc magnet that would be good to put on these bases because they are pretty shallow bases. Now I gotta decide whether I want them to look this way or this way. Or just kind of forward. Maybe that direction. That one looks best. Yeah, it's really too bad that the second and third Hobbit movies didn't have the good singing. The main it's funny, the main reason we started watching A Hobbit Unexpected Journey was because I was like, hey, do you want to just watch like the first 20 minutes of The Hobbit? I want to see them do the song where they do dishes. Dull the Knives, I think it's called. Alright, let's put the finished ones over here. We'll get a pile going. Oh boy, sounds like quite the trip, Dark Matter. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, what I'm gonna do for the grunts of the unit is I'm gonna, with plastic cement, glue a bunch of torso leg combos. Because those ones deserve to have the strong bond of the plastic cement. And we'll just have a mixture of combinations. So that's an arched back. That one's kind of straight. Arched. Straight. That looks kind of straight actually. Oh, this is an ab crunched one. Should be 3 kinds here. All right. Now so the leader has ab crunch going on, and oops, I'm gonna knock over that standard a lot. Just watch. Should weigh down the base with something on the bottom. Yeah, it was this leg combo. So we want to avoid doing that combo again if we can, just for variety's sake. This is how I go about posing or deciding pieces for variant units like this anyways. I try to make it so there's as many unique models as possible. Okay, so we got a pairing there. Then this other ab crunch, let's put it with the final combo of legs. Whatever this one looks like. Okay, those are the ab crunches, and then the kind of standing straight legs. Head with a straight torso. Okay, so that's more lungy legs. Okay, I guess we only had the one. Oh no, okay, we've got some more of the straight legs here, I believe. Okay, well, we'll definitely have one pair of lungy legs with this torso, and another pair with one of those torsos. Like that. Like that. I'm just kind of making piles here. I'll just go glue one pile at a time. And that should look variant enough. All right. Are there any Gunpla builders watching that are like, wow, building miniatures is harder than I thought, or looks harder than I thought? I wouldn't say it's harder, it's just different and more tedious. It depends on what your definition of tedious is, I guess. Perhaps Gunpla would seem more tedious because they're just building a bunch of even smaller, or you're just putting a bunch of even smaller parts together and it's all for one model in the end. Okay. It's gluing time. I should be making sure the camera is focusing too. Hopefully the camera focusing jitters haven't been too bad. Yeah, let's try and turn this torso a bit. Got quite the back lean to it. Will be interesting to see what this looks like once the weapon's attached. When they're all sitting together on the bases, they're gonna just be like a mess of crab boys with swords and bucklers. All right, next one. That was possibly a bit too much glue there. Oh, this is like a leaning back pose. Interesting. Oh yeah, I guess I said earlier I was going to talk more about what the videos are that these things are going to be included in exactly. I mean, the next video for the channel will be the high-grade Gushin. I'm just getting these Conquest minis Burp 7. I'm just getting the Conquest mini assembly over with before I like dive into the Gushin project. Should hold this a bit more. And then after that, there's going to be a video that focuses on kit bashing. It's not going to be focused on minis or Gunpla because it's going to be focused on both. I'll be kit bashing some Conquest minis in that and kit bashing a Iron-Blooded Orphans like leftovers kit bash project I've wanted to do for a while. And so that'll be a video just talking about kit bashing and why it slaps. And yeah, I'll have Conquest kit bashing and Gunpla kit bashing. And by Conquest kit bashing, I will be talking about just kit bashing miniatures in general and showing some other ones that I've done in the past. It's not just going to be Conquest, but the actual kit bashing I'm executing in the video will be with Conquest minis, because, I mean, I'll explain in this video, and, you know, however long it takes for it to come out, I'll be explaining my reasons behind kit bashing. And then after that will be a video talking about my method rationale, I guess, for choosing color schemes and blocking out colors, and then the models I'm working on in that color selection video will be the same ones that I kit bashed in the kit bashing video. And so by the end of that, I should have 2 fully painted lists for a game of Conquest First Blood, and that's what I want the next battle report video to be. So there, I just laid out the secret roadmap for the first part of 2023, roughly. It's essentially a dedicated Gunpla video and dedicated Conquest video with 2 videos that I'll be featuring both minis and Gunpla. So a pretty solid mix, I like to think. For this lunging one, should I turn the torso like that, or is that gonna look weird? Maybe that looks a little weird. And I guess take any channel roadmap announcements with a grain of salt sometime. You know, when it's a thing that's like a month or 2 in advance, I'd say there's always a good chance something will change, just like because life in general, it's things like you never know when something's gonna come up that'll make you have to pivot. But I mean, that's the projects I'm working on right now. Originally I was thinking I would try and do one of those army painting marathon videos. Like one of the kinds that like so many miniature painter YouTubers have done, like how many, like, can I paint an entire army in 24 hours or not? But I ended up being more into the idea of like the kit bashing video than the color scheme video as well. And I was also like, I don't know if I want to do the painting marathon video with all the other stuff I've got to do before I go on that con trip. So anyways, that's the current future content plans. Oh, and the Gushin will be customized for Gamma Wolves. So that'll be my glorious return to the Gamma Wolves custom projects. when I'm done assembling all of these Conquest minis, hopefully early next week. That's when I'll start getting into doing the kit bashing on the Gushin. Got a rough idea of what I'm gonna do, but there still needs to be much rifling through the bits box before I can make a final decision. I'm pretty sure that I still want it to have the big two-handed, well, I guess it's not two. I want him to have the big bonk hammer, you know? Who wouldn't? And with those videos I was just explaining to all of you of the future videos I have planned, there's also a chance I get them done faster than I think, and there's time to like get one more gunpla project in before the con season starts, but you know me, I'm usually behind rather than ahead. Sometimes my projects take a while to paint. Alright, about halfway through this pile. Cool. I think the next, or the other Spires unit that I have to build is like a similar kind of infantry where they have this like chitinous bone armor, but it's like a much newer sculpt and they use like the newer kind of plastic. And I've already like trimmed the nubs off those pieces, and there's a definite like increase in quality, the engineering of that plastic. So I'll have to see if the build experience is like different, or if it's like a significantly easier to build, or whether it's like about the same. Burp 8, I think. That's either burp 7 or burp 8. Now this will be an interesting torso to compare to the leader model, because this is the leaning back one instead of the ab crunch forward one. Possibly it would have been a better choice, but we're committed. I have no regrets. When it comes to these models anyways. Okay, with the back arched, it does look a... He's kind of like popping his booty out. So that's fun. In regards to future live streaming plans, there will be. I am going to, or I hope to be able to paint like at least one leg and one arm for the Gushin on stream. I feel like I should be able to do that because You know, when I'm recording the painting footage for a video, that's different than like recording a stream VOD. But you know, I can paint one arm and one leg while recording the video for like the proper video, and then save the other arm and leg on this first stream possibly. That's something I'll have to figure out when I've like planned out the colors and I'm like planning out how the painting's gonna go. The conch is gone. No more burp juice. See how many more burps we get out of it. And I do appreciate everyone that checks out the non-Gunpla content when I do it. I know it's not the like best YouTube practice to try and like do different things on the same channel. But you know, my thing's always been about the trying to exist and as a Gunpla person and a mini person, and if I do just minis content or just Gunpla content, I get burnt out too easy, so I kind of decide to take the algorithmic hit and, you know, work on the minis projects in addition to the Gunpla, and I know it gets less engagement because most of my subscribers come from Gunpla, but that's, you know, totally understandable why those people might not want to watch the mini painting stuff or like hit like on a post I make with minis instead of Gunpla. But those of you who are like came for the Gunpla and then check out the minis stuff anyways and keep the open mind, I appreciate that. Oh, Nick does stuff. You ordered your first Warhammer and getting started book and minis. Yeah, Fiverr. Yeah, Fiverr, you like, or you're a good example of keeping that open mind because you just like got into the Gunpla hobby as well, and like the two hobbies have a lot of crossover and are similar enough. Like you might as well do both of them at the same time if you enjoy both of them. TLDR, Fiverr is cool because they do minis and Gunpla. Nick does stuff. What was the Warhammer thing you ordered? Remember, take baby steps. Don't want to overwhelm yourself with a pile of plastic too much at the beginning. Alright, I'm done the conch. I just got my G Fuel mug that's full of water, not G Fuel. It's just a good water bottle because it's got Char Zazaku and the RX-78-2 on it. Burp 9. I'm not sponsored by G Fuel, by the way. In case you were wondering. They and Bandai just provided me with the product. Some skeleton, oh, the Getting Started book comes with some skeleton with a gun and a Space Marine. That sounds like a Necron and a Space Marine. So is it like a Getting Started painted set? Or Getting Started with painting set? Do you come with the little mini paints? And also, if you want to copy my Monster Energy Marine paint scheme, go ahead. It's not, I'm not gatekeeping that or anything. Anyone can, I mean, that's how it goes for most things. I'd say most people don't mind if, like, they see your paint job and you're like, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna paint my army like that. I mean, maybe if it's someone from, like, the same gaming club that you would, like, play with a lot on a regular basis, they might give you some side-eye, but I'd say in general, like copying each other's color schemes is acceptable. Acceptable in the miniature painting hobby. Maybe that's a point worth bringing up in my color scheme video. That one won't come out for a while. It's one of those things where I've got the script started, but it's just kind of a document where when I have an idea, I just chuck it in there to consolidate all the random notes later. Because when the video's that far away, you never know what's going to come up or come to mind in terms of ideas. Hello, Mechley Props. Oh yeah, you've been using like miniature painting techniques on your Gunpla or your Gundam? How's that been going? Are you saying you figured at least, like you figured someone else did it to some extent, or did I open your eyes to painting Gunpla like that? I wasn't the first person to come up with it or anything. Far from. Okay, this is the last torso leg combo. I should have been laying them out in more of like a chronological line so I know which ones have had their glue curing for the longest. So that was a bit of an oops. Also, the wide stance of some of these poses is we'll have to see how that fits on the base. It could be a bit of an overhang situation going on. But you know, thankfully these are the kind of minis that are circle bases that slot into a square base, so you can rotate them if they don't rank up properly, and usually it's works out pretty well. Yeah, I mean it's the hand painting does require a bit of, say like with airbrushing versus hand painting, it's like the hand painting you gotta get that practice to get like the hand feel and the muscle memory of like edge highlighting and stuff down, and you start to get better at it. I find with airbrushing it's more like the experience of like troubleshooting and like figuring out what PSI and like thinner ratio works and all that properly, and more like accumulating the knowledge and experience that comes from all the airbrush troubleshooting you have to do. But I mean, there is hand technique that goes into airbrushing as well. Yeah, so I should have set these down in a way where I know which one has been drying the longest, but oh well. I think probably we attach them to bases next. Oh, you found my channel after your third Gundam paint job. What were your... care to tell me about your Gundam paint jobs, if you want to share? You don't have to. Alright, so this is like the same pair of legs that the standard bearer has. When I glued the standard bearer to the base, he was like way over at the edge. But this one isn't going to have a weird off center balance like the standard, so it can be glued a bit more in a bit more of a centered manner. I also think the Spires unit I build after this will be... I'm like more excited for that one because it'll have more extra bits. Which is something I'll be talking about in the kit bashing video, how when it comes to wargaming, the dual variant infantry kits are great for kit bashing because, you know, if you... Like one of the 100 Kingdoms units I got, you can build it as halberd wielding boys with capes, or spear boys with like slightly different helmets. And so whichever unit you don't build, all those pieces you would have used just become glorious fodder for the kit bashing box. Thankfully, like, there's still some Age of Sigmar stuff that comes out. And, you know, has, like, variants of what you can, like, build to add to your army. But a lot of their newer models have been, like, monopose. Which isn't bad, because, like, they make them monopose so they can, like, have them or, like, sculpted into, like, pretty crazy dynamic poses. But there's less like the bits you get for kit bashing afterwards aren't as good, in the sense it's like the amount of weird arm to shoulder joints, whereas like a sword like this is just like a ball joint. I don't know if that makes sense or not. There's still plenty of amazing kit bashing that people are able to do with modern Games Workshop products. Yeah, for this pose, there's a decent amount of toe overhang on there. I don't know if you can see. If I hold it like that, you can kind of see. That's the thing that happens with all kinds of minis. Hopefully, it might cause a bit of an issue of fitting on the base when there's sand glued on there, like fitting into the square slotted base. But if you put the minis like that in the back rows that are less visible, it's fine in terms of looks. It doesn't really matter for the gameplay. For the like 2.0 edition of the Conquest rules, they did change it. Or they changed the way the infantry stands work a bit. So that if you, just because of the way the mechanic works now, you can just kind of glue all four of them down if you want. But of course that means you can't like take them out and use them as single units for First Blood if you want to play the skirmish game. But some people, they'll have like, oh, this is my First Blood. Alright, I collected this faction for First Blood and the other one for Last Argument of Kings. Hour and 37. Time's just been flying by. getting a solid combo of super glue fumes and plastic cement fumes. Gotta love it. Don't know which one's more potent. They both smell pretty chemically. A high-grade RX-78-2 in purple instead of blue, black instead of white, and teal instead of red and yellow. That sounds nice. Oh, a Nazaku with purple and gold trim. That sounds great. Red and black trim on Barbatos is also great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to when I get to make the video about color schemes, because it's always a stage of the Gundam customization process I enjoy greatly, is the stage where you're trying to decide on the color scheme and where all the colors are gonna go. It's like a pretty mentally taxing stage of the process, but it's like, you know, in a good, like, stimulating way. Yeah, I mean, fair enough, Meckley. I don't know if I could name off every Gundam I've painted off the top of my head right now. Yeah, this is an interesting pose. It's like leaning back pretty far. We'll see what that looks like when we start getting arms on it. And I've talked about the quality of like the plastic and sculpts and stuff of the newer models too, and that definitely applies to with some of the, I'd say like out of the newer models I've built, the poses are a bit less janky. Some of the poses of like the Men-at-Arms from the original box that I got are a little like when it came to building them, it was a little like required a decent amount of thought to like position everything in a way that looked most natural. But those Men-at-Arms are some of their like oldest models. Makes me wonder how much time will go by before they like start going back to older models in their range and revamping them. I'm assuming not for a while, because they've got like a decent amount of models that have rules on their, like within their game, but don't have models out yet, because you know they're still a new company. They can only churn out so many models at a time, while also like churning out new factions and all that. No one really has, or no miniature war games really have the same amount of resources as GW and can put out that many new models in a season. Yeah, so much more happens in the gluing stream than does in the like nub removal scene or stream. I'm just remembering now a War Machine and Hordes tournament I went to like, you know, more than 5 years ago. Where the guy that won Best Painted was a good, or I always think of it as a good story to talk about when talking about like tabletop quality painting, because his army wasn't like painted technically like impressively in any way. It was just pretty basic, you know, maybe a bit of dry brushing here, some really basic highlights. Everything else is just consistent base coats. like a decently thought out color scheme, and he won best painted just because his army looked really good when it was like all sitting together on the table, all consistent, all painted. And like the best painted prize at this tournament was given out by like vote, so like everyone at the end of the tournament like voted anonymously on like which army do you think should win best painted, and his ended up getting a lot of votes because a lot of people were impressed by it just because it collectively as an army it just looked really solid. It's like you don't have to like go try hard mode on every mini in the army or anything like that. Sometimes you just need consistency. Alright, gluing the last one to the base here. Soon we're gonna start sticking swords and sword arms into sockets, and it's gonna get exciting. I suppose I should probably switch back to the plastic cement. I've just kind of been using, or I guess I use this super glue for the attaching it to the base just because it'll probably fall over and it would get pretty annoying if I was doing it with plastic cement. Or it's nice to be able to just stand them up on their bases like this right after sticking it on. With the plastic cement, I'd have to hold it on there longer. You're working on a master grade RX-78 with some gunmetal and a bunch of metallics. That sounds nice. Okay. So we got a few different, we got 3 different kinds of sword arms here. We got like a 90 degree bend, less bend. I don't know what degree that would be, and then an almost straight arm. So let's just arrange these neatly and we can start assigning them to bodies. Some of the more awkward poses, like the leaning back or the lunging one, those will be the candidates, or like those will be the ones where like the most thought on like which sword they get. Okay, now I kind of know that the ones over here are the ones that have had their glue drying longer, so I'll work this direction. Alright, so we got this, and they all seem to be right-handed. That one looks okay. I feel like this one looks better though, yeah. Alright, well, let's give this one that arm. There's 2 other lunging ones. Let's definitely give... Let's put these in frames. Let's give this one the one with a bit less bend. And the other kind of jank pose was this leaning back one. Yeah, that could work with this one. I mean, they all could work with any arm, but the question is which one looks best. Okay, the leaning back looks best with this kind of arm as well. And there's just 2 of those. Now, I don't know if this like straight out arm looks good, can like look that good with any of these kind of lunging ones, so I'm just gonna give it another one of those and have a bit of pose overlap. Okay, so we got 5 left to assign a blade. We got 2 of those kind of action pose, 3 fairly neutral standing ones. Oh, look, the standard bearer fell over again. This happens with the Steel Legion standard bearer all the time, and like most standard bearers I've had for any miniatures game ever, now that I think about it. Okay, I guess this is kind of the... sign like that. And like sometimes it can be tempting to glue models with like big sword swingy arms, but that does, like, this mini's height will be a lot taller than all the other ones, which can be a problem when transporting things sometimes. So, but it does look pretty cool with its arm held up high like that. Yeah, I think we'll try and make it work there. Welcome back, John Bear. You're just in time to see me glue some sword arms. I'm gonna have to clean up the super glue nozzle after this. On some older standard bearer models I have, they've just got like pennies or nickels glued to the bottom of the base to weigh them down. Okay, yeah, let's use the more appropriate glue for this situation. I'd say overall I am still kind of focusing on speed when it comes to building these, just because I got so many minis to build. I could, like, you know, build one at a time and like really like plan the shield arm posing and the sword arm posing at the same time, but similar to my thought process with the nubs and all that. Only putting in a bit of effort for each mini just because there's so many, and collectively as the entire army it will be a massive effort, so no shame in that. And by the time I'm building this whole unit, there'll probably be like a solid spot to end this stream, and it'll be at my usual like 2.5 to 3 hour mark. I had to take a guess. Yeah, these the straightest posed arms seem like the trickiest ones to figure out where to put them. I don't know how much I want this one raised or lowered. If you put it pointing too far in front, then sometimes it'll collide annoyingly with other minis when you're like charging them into each other. This does look like a pretty powerful pose though. Sorry if the focus has been shaky still. Yeah, it truly was. I just needed to get past that that hump at the beginning of this assembling the standard bearer and champion, and then getting all the leg torso pairs figured out. Now it feels like the building's just a lot easier right now. So I'll do the shield arms after this. And the heads last. Alright, maybe this is one I get a bit more dramatic with the pose and have the sword raised up somewhat high. Yeah, I don't want to be too much of a pain on myself when it comes to... Okay, maybe that's better. It's got a decent booty, this mini. Yeah, I think that works with the kind of lean of his pose. Oh. Definitely getting plenty of glue on my hands, like always. Sorry for the silence there. I gotta find something else to talk about. Oh, I guess I could keep talking about Conquest lore in the context of the... As I did mention earlier that there's 2 other factions in the game that are like influenced or created by the Spires. The orcs of the game, called the Wadroon, were like basically a science experiment by the Spires to try and like they were trying to like manufacture their like ideal like subservient race to be like their soldiers, but the Wadroon are like over-engineered and oh geez, where to even start explaining the there's this whole thing where like the Wadroon where they're like a science experiment but just at one specific spire. And then there was kind of like a war between the dwarves of the setting called Dweghome. Well, there are dwarves too, but the Dweghome are like different. It's the whole thing. They were like fighting the Spires along with another faction in the Exile campaign, and then the Wadroon were almost like wiped out in a single battle, but like some of them managed to escape, and then they ended up like their civilization ended up kind of starting in the ruins of the spire structure, where like the stored biomass there helped like an oasis form, but there are also like plenty of dangerous other like science experiments that came out of the spire that they had to like fight and hunt and survive against, and some of those were the dinosaurs they ended up riding. So anyways, there's a very bad explanation of that faction. And then the like Viking faction, they like, it uses the like real life Viking folklore like from Earth of, you know, like Yggdrasil and like Thor, Odin, Loki. So from like the Nords perspective, those are like who they worship as gods. But in reality, it's the Spires. They had like set up a spire in the north of the world and started like doing experiments on the humans living up there and making like genetically modified like super warriors and stuff. So like most fantasy lore, it does borrow a lot from real history, but and Conquest just has a lot of cool twists to it. Gives it a unique dark fantasy spin. And my poor explanations of the lore are not doing it justice. Trust me. There is a lot of free lore to read on the Parabellum's website. You know, if you're the kind of person that likes to read fantasy lore, I certainly am. I'm gonna have to wash my hands pretty well after this. The dwarves of the Conquest setting were, I mean, they are called dwarves, and like in the history of the setting, they were created by the dragons. The Spires shared their knowledge of life binding and biomancy with the dragons, and the dragons were able to create dwarves as their like servant race. But they made the mistake of engineering the dwarves to have perfect memory, so every act of oppression was like remembered by generations and generations of these dwarves, and eventually the dwarves like unlocked a primordial like magical power that forever changed a bunch of them into becoming the Dweghome, and they're like became very warlike and just had an entire war of rebellion against the dragons, and dragons are pretty much dead in the current timeline of the setting because the Dweghome wrecked them. The dragons in that Conquest setting are the kind of dragons that are like powerful enough that like doesn't necessarily make sense to have them as minis you can field in your army, because it would just be like so massive compared to everything else and be so powerful. Kind of like how they are in War Machine and Hordes. There'll be models that look very dragon-like, but those are just, you know, like spawns of the actual dragon, or like mutations made by the dragon in his image. And I tend to, as much as I like a good dragon model, I like it when in like the lore the dragons are like massive, intelligent, like powerful beings. I suppose that's like like how they are in D&D, where the dragons are all like the dragons all have distinct personalities. They're not just like monsters you kill. I mean, I guess it depends on your campaign. Okay, last sword arm to glue on now. I don't know if anyone hasn't seen it yet on my, well, I made a community post and the usual social media places. I finally posted pictures of the finished Vidarbatos model. And there is a reel / short of that I'll post next week. That's got it's mostly recut stream footage, because I've worked on it on stream like on and off over the last year, and then a bit of footage from that original like kind of, or like how to hand paint Gunpla video I did in April. Okay, time to dole out these shields now. I believe like with the swords there are 3 different kinds of shields. It's easier to tell these apart just because of the, you know, they got different shapes and designs. And they all kind of Yeah, they all pretty much have the same elbow bend, it looks like. Yeah, well, this one's like a bit wider of an angle. So let me think here. Yeah, there's less thought that needs to go into the shield positioning. It's just kind of like, it'll just kind of make sense when I get it there. With the exception of maybe like this sword pose, I glued it at more of like a bit of a lower angle, so yeah, we'll have to see. I suppose this one, I could do something fancy like pose it up like that. That doesn't look bad actually. It makes sense with the spiky shield, so. And the other ones I'll just be divvying up for the sake of aesthetic variety. So like these two are the same pose, so I'm making sure they have different shields. They're the same like leg pose, I mean. Alright, good night, Mechley. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's organize these. Okay, that's another lunge one. So we will give it this shield. And these are the kind of 1 foot forward ones. And there's 3 of them, so they'll each get 1 unique shield of their own. Oh, we're at 2 hours now, nice. Okay, and for these ones, we'll just give out those shields, and here. Pretty straightforward overall. Alright, and then we just glue them on. It's as easy as that. Let's have a quick drink of water first though. Also, I hope some of you have noticed I arranged the face cam for the stream in a way so that you can see Domo hanging out at the back of the shelf there. Should build this in a spot where it actually shows up on camera. And this pose is gonna be pretty like middle of the road, but it's okay. You gotta have a couple like static poses to blend in with, or to give some variety with all the super dynamic ones. Although this pose will look a lot less bland, you know, with a bit of getting the head at that right angle. All right, next. Now this one I could, yeah, sure, that'll be fun. If let's have this one in a raised position. I do like the aesthetics of this unit a lot with the cool spiked bucklers and like saber swords. I think this will look better if it's a bit higher. Sorry, I don't know if the camera was in focus there. Maybe if it's tilted down, that'll... Hello, Hugo. How's your Friday going? Thanks for stopping by the stream. We're just gluing the shield arms onto these Vanguard clones. And then we just gotta do the heads and we're done. Are you a minis person or a gunpla person, Hugo? Or both? Or neither? Yeah, this one will look better with the shield being hugged a bit closer to the body. Alright, 6 left. Ah, gunpla, I see. Very good. Thanks for checking out the minis stream. Yeah, some of these it's hard to decide where the optimal or the most dynamic shield angle is with the leg pose you got. I think this one just has to be a little vanilla. It's all gonna come down to the head positioning. I haven't passed out from the glue fumes, so I should be able to make it to the end of this unit. Looks like a solid on guard pose. The one extracurricular sport I tried to do in junior high, or high school, I guess, to some of you, was fencing, because I was like, oh, it's got swords, that's cool, you know, nerdy child. Didn't work out though. I ended up leaning more towards the, you know, guitar lessons and stuff. I like being athletic in terms of like going on hikes and bike rides and stuff, but not so much with sports. I can get competitive with games, but with sports has just never been my vibe. I don't have a strict stream schedule, Hugo. My streaming is more just based off of what I'm working on. And generally I try and do like at least one stream a week on like a weekend like night, like Friday, Saturday. But at the end of the day, my main focus is like making the main YouTube videos for the channel. And the streaming is just secondary, but you know, if there's a thing, like right now I've got all these Conquest minis to build, and it's gonna take a while, so I know like it's a good thing to do on stream. Or like with my upcoming Gunpla project, I know I want to do like parts of it on stream, you know, like I'll paint one leg and one arm on video, like recording it in HD for the actual video, but then I don't need to like record painting the other leg because it'll be the same, so I could do that one on a stream. This might look better raised actually. So yeah, generally once a week on the weekend, but sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the week. Very unsatisfying answer, I know. Maybe one day I'll have a stream schedule. Yeah, I can't decide how I want this one positioned. I think I'll just go with this. Like this week I streamed on, what was it, Wednesday? I did a co-stream with Fiverr because I was thinking I'd have a pretty busy weekend and I wouldn't be able to stream. So I did one earlier in the week, which I'd done before, but you know, I ended up, you know, plans fell through. Ended up having time to stream tonight anyways, which is good because I need to get these models built. Alright, second last shield. Oh yeah, and speaking of stream schedule, now I'm thinking about next weekend. Like, yeah, it's like next week. If there is a stream, it's likely gonna be another Conquest model buildings. Well, yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure yet. There, honestly just might not be a stream next week, because next week, for sure, it's gonna be a decently busy weekend. And it's also my birthday next weekend. But if, yeah, the thing is likely I'm gonna be like pretty into the kit bashing process for the next Gunpla video by the end of next week, which I typically don't stream. So perhaps not. The closer I get to like a main channel video being released, the less likely the streams are. And then like if a video has recently been released and I'm kind of like fresh in that in between video period, that's usually when there's more streams. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a fun birthday. You don't have to worry about that. It'll be a chill birthday. I'm gonna eat some cake. Perhaps a beverage or two. Okay, on to the last shield now. And when I'm done, like, or when I, since I'll be gluing the final pieces on with the heads here in this last stretch, I'll give more of a, like, proper viewing angle of each model so you can all see, and then I'll go through them all at the end and arrange them nicely on the base to just tie a ribbon onto everything. And the heads, they're all, I picked out, you know, there's a variety of heads to choose from, so I picked out a decent, or I just like picked out the ones I liked the most and don't really need to pay much attention to like what the best head for each body is, because they're all kind of the same shape. More just need to focus on getting the best position for each head when it's on the torso. That makes sense with how the sword and shield are. Oh yeah, I'm gonna paint these. I mean, this specific unit, I'm not sure. I need to finish building all these units I got and then do a bit of kit bashing so I can figure out what my like army lists are gonna be for the first blood battle report that I brought up like way earlier on the stream. So I don't know if you'll see me paint this full unit anytime soon, but perhaps a couple models from it. Just the way his like back is arched in this pose is kind of funny. Let's see, maybe will it look a bit better with more head turn that way, or my head turn somewhere in the middle. His face almost looks like it could be a JoJo stand. Let's go with that. Oh, here, I'll give you the... Sorry, I bumped the mic there. I'll give you a better view of the model there. Move these over so I got more of an assembly line going. Alright, next head. Yeah, Hugo, if you want to see what colors I'll be painting these, I did a video way back in 2021 about this game Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings, where I showcase the color scheme for both my armies. This army is the Spires. This guy, he could go like, could have his head turned that way, but I feel like it might look better if it's this way. Bit more turn this way. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Well, the art style was off-putting. Didn't like the gritty grimdark fantasy. That's fair, that's fair. The art style of Conquest versus the art style of like the Gunpla stuff I usually do is they are pretty different. But you know, variety is the spice of life, as they say. Okay, now this one perhaps will look better this way. Oh yeah, I like how that's looking. Oh, I didn't give a full 360 of this last one. Let me just give you a quick spin of it there. Oh, you meant JoJo? Yeah, the art style of JoJo is much that's also another extreme. I can totally see, or I totally get why people would think the art style of JoJo is off-putting. Okay, here, let me give the spin of this one. Nice, we're gonna wrap up right around that 2.5 hour mark. That seems, the 2.5 hours to 3 hours seems to be my ideal stream length. Although every once in a while it is nice to do a solid 3.5, 4 hour stream. Usually that happens if it's like a big Gunpla painting project and I can just do couple hours, or like, you know, multiple hours of edge highlighting. You can see this one's head has a bit of a bandana, sort of. This is good old Tamiya cement. I have used super glue for some point on the parts of these models that were more difficult and I needed to dry fast. I used super glue. Another reason I'm building these, there's a bit too much glue on there almost. I'm building these Conquest models now, even though my next video is going to be Gunplas. I'm just like doing all the parts of my upcoming projects here that involve heavy plastic dust first. Because like I'm gonna build all these models and cleaning up all the nubs is gonna generate a lot of plastic dust. And then kit bashing the next Gunpla and sanding it's gonna generate a lot of dust. So I'm just gonna let the room get really dusty and then do like a one big old dusting and clean of the room before I start on the painting. We'll see how that works out. We'll see how dusty the room gets throughout. Maybe I'll need to do a little mini dust in between the Conquest minis and the Gunpla kit bashing. if it's like really bad. Yeah, as I'm putting the heads on these, there's a lot of them where I was like, I was thinking the pose looks kind of bad with just the shield and the sword, but as soon as I get the head on there and like find the right angle for it, it starts to look better. That's how I'm feeling anyways. Oh, when his head's leaning back this far, that definitely looks like a bit of a JoJo pose. Is that what I want to do, though? Yeah, it looks better tilting the other way, I think. The last one? Yeah, I think this one looks really good, too. All right, just 3 left. I don't think I'll be building like all of my new Conquest units on stream. Some of them I'll just be building and like shooting a time lapse for B-roll. But you know, if I only end up doing like one more model building stream, I'll try and make sure it's a building for the 100 Kingdoms army as opposed to the Spires army, so you get a bit more stream variety. I suppose there is a chance I'll have like, you know, if I come up with a kit bashing idea for my next Gunpla, I might like build another Gunpla on stream and be like, I'm building this Gunpla just because I would need this one piece, so I'm gonna, you know, build it out of box and then immediately salvage it for parts. Got a decently healthy backlog to choose from. There's also a lot of parts just from kits I've already built that I haven't used in the kit bashing graveyard that are good contenders for use. One of the main draws for this Conquest minis game for me was the fact that the minis are slightly larger scale. It's like 32-ish millimeter scale as opposed to like 28. Just having that slightly beefier infantry model makes a difference, I find. Yeah, this one I'm not sure which head angle is best. Maybe go with that. Okay, they're all built. I'm going to show them all off to the camera properly though, and also just need to grab the slotted bases and we'll put them on the slotted bases. Tie things in a neat little bow at the end. So the stream's not ending right now, but there isn't much time left, so if you have any burning questions or super chats, get them in now. Kit bashing a Leo for all the states, like each American state. That's an interesting idea. That'd be a lot of work. What do you mean something else? All right, there's our, let's center this in the screen. Got our slotted bases for our 12 models. Got our standard bearer, the most difficult one in the set to build. And the one that's just going to be tipping over for its entire existence until I magnetize it. Damn, that's like, yeah, that's a lot of custom Leos to make, but I suppose the Leo is a good candidate for a project like that. And then we got the unit leader, so his sword has a fancy little tassel. He's got more armor and this back flag thing. Made sure he had a dynamic pose, even though we had to do some parts modifying around the collar to make the head sit at an appropriate angle. And the like leader models in the unit are supposed to go in the middle one, I believe. Sup, Josh? You're coming in here just as I'm showing off all the finished models. I'll just give another quick look at the commander models here. We got the leader and the standard bearer. I really like the way the standards look in the Spires army. They're cool and spooky. All right, now we'll just go through the other 10. And these are Vanguard clones for the Spires army in the tabletop game Conquest: Last Argument of Kings, in case anyone was wondering. Thank you, Josh. It's been a good night. I've enjoyed building these models. See, if these were like square bases, this sword would make it hard to like get them all to rank up with each other, but since they're circles, you can just rotate them and make them fit. And I don't know, I just am a sucker for games that have units that rank up like this. I guess some people call those rank and flank war games. You can certainly flank in Conquest. I need a sip of water, one sec. This one's got a nice intimidating pose. He kind of needs to go in the front row though with his sword. Yeah, these Spires, when I first like found out about the Conquest game, the Spires, I was kind of like meh on them, but the more I've like seen them come out with new models or just read about their lore and also like built more than myself, the more their unique aesthetic really grows on me. I really like it. And that I do enjoy the paint scheme I have for them, although I am running into a bit of a problem where like two of the paints I use in the scheme are getting like pretty hard to find. So I might have to like look for some alternative ones to color match. Some of them will be awaiting paint. I need to finalize some of my army lists for some upcoming content to figure. I mean, but yes, they will all be painted eventually. The dream is to have, you know, both my Conquest armies fully painted. That's always the dream. But you know, there are plenty of unpainted minis. Definitely a lot of it has to be broken down step by step into bite-sized manageable pieces. Well, there we have it. We got 12 Vanguard clones on their bases. Looking good. So yeah, now's the last chance if anyone wants to say anything in the chat, super chat, or ask a question. I will be wrapping up the stream shortly. Oh, nice. I just looked at the view counter and it said 69. It's at 70 now, though. Oh, and the average view duration is 11:11. Very nice. Yeah. Hope you all enjoyed hanging out with me while I built these models. I had a good time building them. See when the next stream is. Can always find out when that's gonna be on my social medias if you follow me there, or if you turn on the bell notifications with the old YouTube, you should get a notification when I schedule this stream. Yeah, no worries, Josh. Appreciate you coming by nonetheless. Yeah, I'd say like there'll be another stream either sometime soon and I'll be building more Conquest models, or there'll be like a bit of a maybe like a 2-week gap before the next stream. Should have a better idea by the week, middle of the week. And speaking of my social media, I did recently I finally posted the finished shots of Vidarbatos. So if you're wondering how that project was coming along, you should check those out. I'll have a short and reel coming out for that next week as well. And yeah, pretty happy with how that turned out. So yeah, stay tuned for more Conquest stuff and more Gunpla stuff. That's what's coming in the near future. And I will talk to you all soon. Thanks for coming. Have a good rest of your Friday. Or Saturday, depending on where you are.